Good evening. I call to order this January 17th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Bessie.
Here.
Councilmember Montgomery.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
And Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and recognize our Sergeant at Arms tonight, Lieutenant Krista Long. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. May we have the first item?
Recognition of Helping Hands volunteers.
We call on Wanda Allen Abraha, who is the director of our Human Relations Department, to make some brief comments.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, member of the City Council.
Good evening.
Just wanted to thank you for supporting the annual MLK Helping Hands Day initiative. As you know, this was our second year doing this for city employees to go out into our community and volunteer their time for the betterment of various nonprofit organizations here in Winston-Salem. And just so you know, we had approximately 200 city employees to volunteer this year from just about all departments. I won't say all departments, but just about all departments. And we had a very diverse group in terms of age, race, gender. It was just a really wonderful event. And several of you, of course, were there, and some of you even went out and participated and volunteered right along with us. So I just wanted to say thank you so very much. The 13 agencies who benefited from our volunteerism were deeply appreciative. And so I want to acknowledge that Marketing and Communications pulled together this wonderful display which shows various pictures from the various organizations that benefited from the City Employee Day of Volunteerism. And so, again, there were about 13 of those, and most of those are represented on this poster. So, thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Abraham. Yeah, your staff is here.
Yes, yes, they are. My staff is here. Everybody, can you wave? Or I don't know where everybody is. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. It was a great day for our city, and thank our employees and the city manager and his staff for making that available. I think you all served lunch, didn't you? The staff did. That's good. All right, tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of the following parts. We have the general agenda and the consent agenda, and it's always the practice of the Council to take the consent agenda as the first order of business. Items on this agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedures. There will be no discussion of the items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed from the consent agenda will be enacted with one motion. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 p.m., and copies of our agenda as well as videos are always available online at our city's website, www.cityofws.org, and simply click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Council members, are there any items you wish to pull off consent?
C1 and C7.
C1 and C7.
C8H.
C8H.
There are no further items. I'll make a motion to approve the balance.
It was C7.
We got so okay. There's motion to approve the balance. Second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item C1.
Item C1, resolution authorizing an extension of a lease agreement with KDM of Wilmington LLC, providing a site for a leaf mulching facility for the sanitation department located in the North Ward, recommended by the Finance Committee.
Councilmember Adams.
Yes, what I wanted to ask, I guess, Mr. Garrity or Mr. Turner, I know this came through finance and we passed it, but during the weekend I thought about something. We just finished building the new city yard facilities, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're saying that we use this for storage, for bins and other things. This site, we do the leaf mulching, right?
That is correct. It's used for exterior storage of our leaves. It's not appropriate to really store them inside, and so we needed an exterior facility like this in order to be able to both store and then initially process the leaves for mulching.
Well, I was wondering, again, if we did the city yard. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I guess, again, I'm thinking we just finished building a big new facility with all of this land and it's fenced in. Do we actually have to have this extra expense? That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the cost, and I'm just wondering, could we not find a way to do this where all of the city yard equipment or staff or whatever that we do, whether it's even the leaf mulching, that it moves to the city yard? And I was just wondering that going forward.
We require 3 acres and convenient access to heavy trucks, 4 heavy trucks, and so sites like this are the best. We also need to have sites distributed throughout the city in order to reduce our fuel consumption as we collect leaves from around the city as we do our neighborhood routing.
Okay.
However, we are going to be looking at, while this lease is underway, if it's approved by council, we will be looking at the possibility of acquiring property that the city can own based upon feedback we got from the committee when it went last week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
I would
Motion
like-
second. Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I have talked to the staff privately about this, and I told them this is the last time I'm going to vote on this. We kind of have to. The lease is up in February, and it's already got full of leaves. So if we don't renew the lease, we got to move our leaves. But this piece of property has a tax value a little bit over $100,000, and we're paying close to $40,000 a year to rent it. So I challenge staff to go find 3 acres of land, and I understand they have to be dispersed throughout the city. We have them in different quadrants, but to find some piece of land that we could purchase. I did suggest we did talk to the Wittenberg Park folks. It really didn't work out for them, but we got 3 years to go find something, so I recommend we give it a good try.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
Yes, one more question. Could you put together and email us where the locations are, the other leaf mulch locations, and put it to a ward map so we can see where it is?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Item C7.
Item C7, consideration of a request for additional funding from the Benton Convention Center renovations project, recommended by the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams again.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted staff to give a short review, Mr. Rao, of why we're having to come back with this and the situations that prevailed as to why we had to do this.
Yes, ma'am. During the course of the project, after we had completed the lower level renovation and moved into the upper level renovation, we had identified a number of unknown issues or deferred maintenance issues that were addressed at the time that we were doing the lower level renovation. Just go ahead and address those issues as we were in the building, opening up the walls, ceilings, etc. So part of the additional request would be to basically reimburse ourselves for those additional expenses. Secondly, through some tours and feedback, we have added to the scope of the project by planning to do some interior and exterior improvements to the skywalk that connects the Benton Convention Center with the 6 Cherry Trade parking deck. Those exterior improvements will provide lighting and signage to identify the convention center, but then also it will enclose the skywalk and condition it so that it's a safer walkway. Right now, when there's cold air and moisture, there is a tendency to have some slipping hazards, and this would make the walkway safer. Thirdly, we also needed additional funding to do everything that we had intended to do with the lower level renovation, including installing carpeting, which would actually transform the space from an exhibit hall space to more of a flex space where we can actually host more formal events such as banquets. And then finally, we also are requesting additional funding to provide some additional contingency for the project, $500,000 in contingency, just based on our experience with the lower level renovation. Felt like that to have some additional project contingency would carry us through to the end of the project. So the total request is $1.4 million.
Thank you. And just so the public will understand, and I'm sure, I hope most of us know, the convention center is one of the cash cows of the city per se. Right now, we've been going under renovations now for what, over a year?
Started in April,
So it's coming up on a year, and we're hoping to be finished by
May 4th.
May 4th, in time for one of our largest conventions or events that comes every 2 years, which is the National Black Theater Festival. The council, the finance chair, and I, we've been taking tours on a regular basis of the convention center, and I can just tell you when it's finished, you all will be very, very pleased at some of the modifications and renewals that have been done to it. If any of you have gone to the convention center and been in the bottom level where there was that step up, and it was mostly just an exhibit hall. It had concrete floors. The only people that would rent it would be people that had garden shows or things like that. We never really could get people to rent it for conventions and seminars and things like that. But right now, when you get a chance to go, when it's open, it doesn't even look like the same place. Well, the whole convention center doesn't look like the same place, really. We've knocked out some walls. We've restructured some areas where were dead spaces that people couldn't use, didn't use, because they just weren't, up to what people wanted. But we're hoping that our convention center now will be a class act. And we will be able to continue to compete with cities our size in the Southeast when it comes to bringing convention business here, people staying in the hotels. We got 2 hotels that are getting ready to do their multi-million-dollar rehabs coming up soon. And we're hoping to be able to do that, and we're pretty sure we've done a very good deal. This is a matter of fact, in my lifetime, correct me, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor, this is the 3rd rehab of the convention center since its very inception. So again, thank you to staff and taxpayers of the city for allowing this to finally happen again.
Is that a motion?
I move for approval.
Second.
Councilmember Goodwin.
Just a couple comments. One, I say ditto to what Councilmember Adams has stated. Our convention center is the hub to much of the hospitality industry in downtown Winston-Salem, which employs lots of individuals. And so making an investment in the convention center is something that helps many individuals from varying angles. One of the things that are brought up in Finance Committee meeting was a question of concern, the fact that this did come back before, and we added some additional funds to the project, some items, and we did some shifting and changing through the value engineering. There's some things that were pulled off, and there's some things that were cited that were necessary to do. And at that time, the conversation was around, okay, will this be sufficient to be done to get the project moving forward? We thought so, but of course, when you begin to do work, you always see things that come up in the process. And I think that is the nature of the beast, that you have to deal with those items. But I am challenged in terms of the fact that there were items specific that we discussed before, and at that one point we decided we weren't going to do, and we changed philosophy in the midst of that process on what we were going to do and what we weren't going to do. And if we're going to hold others to the same standard when they come to us in terms of how many times they come back around for additional funding and what we do with that, then we have to hold ourselves as city government to the same standard that we hold other individuals that come before us to. And so the last comment is in reference to the reserve funds that are a portion of this. It was brought up, I believe that Councilmember Larson brought it up in reference to asking for an itemized when the reserves are used, to have an itemized understanding of what that is, because this is a large reserve for the amount of money that's being requested for. And I think it's going to be important to know that those items are actual overages that happen from things that came up, and not substitutions for things that were not in the original request for work that was being done, so that we are adhering to what it was that we've asked the contract to do and what council has affirmed we can financially accomplish.
Councilmember Burke.
I agree with what I've heard, but what we have to keep in mind, anytime you renovate a building, you're going to find things that need to be taken care of. That's why some people like to tear them all down and start from scratch. But when you do things like that, then you get an outcry from the citizens. Seems like we're not spending their money wisely. And as a member of the TDA, visit Winston-Salem, I will let you know that that organization is working very hard. And I don't believe we've lost money, but they still were able to have things here. So would you address that just briefly, if that's okay, Mayor?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Burke. In fact, last fiscal year, because the project did not start as soon as they had anticipated, they actually did not require as much of a subsidy to get through the year. And so part of the funding for this request is actually using some of the savings that they achieved last year, about $250,000 of that. So the intent all along was to operate the building while we were doing the renovation, which did make it a bit more challenging, but they have been able to secure events there as the renovation continues.
Very good. Bessie?
Yeah. Some of these items are clearly no-brainers. The correction of unknown issues that were found in the progress, the correction of deferred maintenance issues that were found during the construction. Some I'm a little concerned about. Didn't we discuss the exterior improvements to the skywalk and determine that we were not going to include those in the budget?
The skywalk itself was never really part of the scope. There was a time when there was thoughts about putting a sleeve over the tower on the top of the building and illuminating it, and that was not included in the final scope of the project. But as far as improvements to the skywalk, that was never a part of the original scope.
Do you have any breakdown in the cost between the cost to enclose and heat and cool the space and the cost to make exterior improvements for aesthetics?
I can provide that information to you.
But you don't have it available now?
No, sir.
What about the $500,000 in additional contingency to the budget? How much is in there now for contingency?
Well, originally, in terms of project contingency, I believe there was about $150,000. So it was a very small amount to start the project. And then I think based on the $260,000 that we incurred in addressing unknown deferred maintenance issues, I think the feeling was, well, we need to try to add some additional project contingency, knowing that with the upper level, a lot of the work was going to be focused on the older part of the building that was built in 1969, and that we just needed to have some contingency on hand. We certainly are going to account for how we use it, and if we don't use it, then it'll be a savings to the project.
Well, one more question in terms of where you're finding the money. Limited obligation funds, $440,000. Was that anticipated to be directed toward any other projects? Is there anything specifically that we're bumping for these improvements?
No, sir. Those limited obligation bonds, that's the additional capacity that we realized when we issued the $60 million in the first round of general obligation bonds back in the spring. Because we sold those bonds at a premium, we actually had some additional capacity. I think it was about $5.3 million. At that time, some of those funds were programmed for recreation projects. Some of it was done for the convention center. So these funds were unobligated funds. It's $440,000 at this point in time.
Is that the entirety of the remaining unobligated portion?
No, sir. I think there will be a small balance remaining. I think one other action in the agenda tonight was there was a budget amendment to appropriate some of this funding also for, I think, 3 recreation projects: the 2nd Street Park project, the Washington Park master plan, and I believe it was the Miller Park. Hobby Park master plan. So I think there's a little bit left, but I can provide you the specific number.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 8H.
Item 8H, resolution awarding purchase order for computers to Dell Marketing LP in the amount of $192,989.11.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Apologize, Mr. Bates. I said I was not going to bring this up tonight, but the more I've been thinking about it, I would like to find out how time sensitive this purchase is to the fire department. Do we know?
I do not believe that it's time
Chief
sensitive.
Mayo is here.
If we need to wait and
we can
bring this to the next committee, I don't believe that would be a problem.
Right. I would like to take a look at, and we talked about specifications on this, and it very likely is what is needed to do the job, but I wouldn't mind taking a look at that. And I apologize, and Chief, let me know if this is time sensitive and needs to go forward. But for this and for future purchases, I would like to be involved in that process of looking at spec. And it goes to the point of just getting as much as we can for our money, stretching our IT budget as far as we can. Overall, I understand the purchase. I understand the necessity of it.
Chief Mayo, are you okay with the delay on this?
That's good. I like that. If it makes you feel good evening, Mr. Mayor and Madam Mayor Pro Tem and other members of the council. Yes, sir. If it would make you feel more comfortable, I'm certainly okay to push it off until next month. We are replacing some of these units that are late 80s era, and we have several other projects hinging on our mobile connectivity, automatic vehicle location, and some other dispatching things. So,
Right.
yes.
But going through the specs and looking at some of the pricing, what we're purchasing is much more expensive than the base item. And I just want a sense from your IT people why we need to go to the higher end unit instead of the base unit.
You want me to talk about it briefly?
Sure.
So one of the first thing that comes to my mind is that these are ruggedized machines.
Right.
So, they have bumpers on the corners. They are, I would not use the term firefighter proof because I've never seen anything that was, but they are water resistant, backlit keyboards, touch screens. They're made to be docked and undocked so that we can take them in and do inspections, put them back in, handle the RMS, run reporting, those sorts of things. And as far as I know, that's a very limited market. The only other product I know of that has seen any success in the market is the Panasonic Toughbook, which frankly in my experience is not very tough. The Dell machine is, we're sort of a Dell shop, and the applications that run between the machines are similar across the board, the troubleshooting things. So there's some streamlining there to be had where, the IT folks are not having to learn certain applications for a Dell machine, other applications for another machine. They dock and undock,
Right.
with the truck docks.
Sure.
Of the Ford of this is sort of the Ford pickup of ruggedized machines, if you will.
And my question more went to, and this is going to get way in the weeds, but the amount of RAM that's required, some of the things over top of base on that rugged unit. I mean, I understand why that particular one fits your needs,
right.
But I'd like to have some conversation about, is that hard? Because the profit margin is in those specific add-ons,
Right.
and I know from being in the industry that's where the money is made.
I would hazard a guess that it is due to the mapping that has to be done because
Right.
that's memory intensive, but the IT folks may be able to give you a more in-depth answer than I can on that.
Without objection, then we can table this to our next meeting.
Or we can just send it back to committee.
Go back to committee. All right, we'll send it back and bring it back through that way.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, without objection, we'll do that.
We'll look at it.
Okay, very good. All right, we can now go back to the general agenda, which is comprised of the following items. We have an item concerning economic development project, recommendations for appointments to the Outstanding Women Leaders Program Committee, and our public comment period. The economic development item is listed for a public hearing, and when the public hearing is called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. If no one wishes to speak, the public hearing will be closed, and the council will consider the item. May we have item number 1, please?
Item G1, public hearing on resolution authorizing modifications to a previously approved economic development project with Corning Optical Communications, LLC, recommended by the Finance Committee.
Mr. Page, will you give us just a brief summary of this change in the project?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This item was originally approved in October of 2016. At that time, the company agreed to invest $30 million and create 100 new jobs. As part of the modification, they will still be creating 100 new jobs, still the same salary of averaging $58,000, still investing $30 million. The only difference is that the investment will be phased over a 4-year period as opposed to being made all in year one. As a result, the amount of the assistance has changed from a maximum of $435,000 to now a maximum of $395,834. over that 5-year period. So a reduction of $39,500 based on the phasing of the investment. Everything else remains the same.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Page? All right, this is a public hearing. I know Mr. Asterson's here from the chamber for any questions, obviously. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this amendment to this public economic development project? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. Recognize Councilmember Clark.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I'm just as excited about this deal now as I was in October. As Mr. Page indicated, it creates 100 new jobs over 4 years at an average salary of $58,000 a year. I just want to thank Corning for their commitment and dedication to our community. I think you've been an excellent neighbor, an excellent partner in the Southeast Ward. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we know that some of the jobs that will be created, all of them don't necessarily require a college degree, and I think that's good. But beginning of next month, they're allowing us to come in with a group of college students to learn a little bit more about the operation. So I think they've done a good job. They'll continue to do a good job, and I certainly support the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 2.
Item G2, Mayor Pro Tempore Burke's recommendations for appointments to the Outstanding Women Leaders Program Committee. Dana Suggs and Carolyn Horton appointments with terms expiring December 2018, and Deborah Gunner, Naomi Jones, and Nan Gridswald appointments with terms expiring December 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Item 3.
Item G3, public comment period.
This is a time once per month where the City Council sets aside 30 minutes and asks the city residents and citizens who would like to address the City Council and me on matters that are germane to city government. We would ask that you state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. First person is, can't quite make it out, as Reeve Carlisle, maybe? Reeve Carlisle. I'm sorry?
Reverend.
Oh, Reverend Carlisle. Sorry. All right, Phillip Summers. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Phillip Summers. I live at 2422 Peachtree Street in the Walltown neighborhood. I want to start off my comments with just 2 brief quotes. The first one's by the Reverend Tim Keller. He says, "Justice is done when marginalized and oppressed groups are given more political and economic freedom." The other one is by Martin Luther King Jr. It says, "This country has socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor." And the reason I wanted to come and talk today is I believe that we have an opportunity in the city to really invest in transportation. I think it's a tangible way to help our most marginalized people and help them move towards greater economic and political freedom. So I want to change the language on transportation and not see it as a cost center, but see it as a way that we can invest in our own local people. What it affords then is greater livability in the community. It affords greater community resilience. I think there are a lot of social ills that we're all concerned about. We need to have some vision about ways that we can invest our money to help people locally. I think ultimately you spend your money where you value things. And so when we hear that there's not enough money, that's really a value statement. And so I would like the conversation to be shifted towards valuing people and not just projects that we think might make some money, but let's help people invest in their community. I'll also say that as a transit rider and friends of transit riders, it seems like there's a lot of concern around these new routes and people aren't feeling welcome in their own city. And I think that might be a perception, but I think we need to work hard to make everyone feel welcome. And so I'm going to leave with just one final thought, and that is I think you want to make the transit system so great that you start to attract choice riders. If you're going to change the culture, it can't just be about transit-dependent riders. You're going to want to move towards a system where as you grow this metropolitan area, People who live downtown will be delighted to jump on one of your buses because it's so convenient and so great. So that's the vision I think we need to work for. But we can start now and really bless a lot of people by investing in transit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Reverend Dennis Leach. Reverend, welcome. Reverend Leach gave an amazing sermon last night at the Martin Luther King service, sir. Glad to have you here tonight, sir.
Thank you. Mayor Joines, council members, I am Dennis Leach, the pastor of Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church, 1400 Fifth Street, located in the Columbia Heights Extension community. I was recently made aware of the fact that the bus services to the community around the church had been halted by the Winston-Salem Transit Authority, a community already dealing with the adverse effect of the bypass project. The community encompasses an area of nearly 4.5 miles. There's only one way in and one way out. It is considered a food desert in that residents have to travel a considerable distance to a major grocery store chain like Food Line. Statistically, it is an area that is made up of some of the poorest and most impoverished people in Winston-Salem. Geographically speaking, the trek to Martin Luther King Boulevard from within the community involves a street with no sidewalks, Williamson, and a considerable hill that would challenge those who are fit, let alone handicapped, mothers with small children, and those who may be wheelchair bound. I'm here tonight to say to those in this chamber, or to ask those in this chamber, for your help in restoring bus services to a community that was already feeling the pain of being boxed in and closed off. A community filled with people struggling to make ends meet. A community crying out for help. A community that makes up some of the people that Jesus talked about in Matthew's gospel when he said, "As much as you have done it unto the least of these, you have done it also unto me." The least need your help. The least need your influence. And the least need to know that the elected official, that they matter to the elected officials in this chamber. Help us restore bus services to our community. Thank you.
You, Reverend Leach. Thank you very much. Tony Neji? Tony is up, Ndege. Okay. Renee Wilkins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Delane Renee Wilkins. Everybody know me as Renee. And I have lived in the Columbia Heights Skyline area practically all my life. And this is the first time by being in that area that the bus service no longer comes through that area. I am disabled, and I depend on the bus service to get to appointments that I otherwise can't get through with TransAid. Because if you can walk, you can't use TransAid. You have to, if the bus goes to that particular office, you have to catch the bus, and that's a long hill to walk. And walking up the street, I have issues with my knees, and walking up the street causes me pain to catch the bus. And then also when you walk up the street, it's 4 lanes of traffic, and you have to cross the street to the other side just to get the bus to go to the downtown area. And I've seen people walking, pushing strollers with children, people with canes, people with wheelchairs going up the hill to catch the bus. And I know several residents that have, one lady had to move because the bus service no longer comes at an adequate time for her to get to work on time. And some people have even lost their jobs behind the fact that the bus doesn't come down in that area and it doesn't come at an adequate time. And then there are some people who can't even get home from work because the last bus leaves town at 5:30 and it just goes to the top of the hill. And because of like what Reverend Leach says, and I'm a member of Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church, there are no sidewalks, and you got traffic constantly coming down the street, and it's just not fair. I mean, we are already feeling isolated And it's just like we're being neglected now for real. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Appreciate your coming down.
Mayor Jones,
Councilmember.
if I may, I apologize. Mr. Ndege was in the overflow room, and he
Mr.
said-
Daly, okay. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you for your time and consideration. My name's Tony Anthony Ndege, 1713 Chapel Street, Winston-Salem. One of my favorite theatrical quotes is, "The law say I needed a piece of paper to say I was a free woman, but I didn't need no piece of paper to tell me that." That is a quote from the play Gem of the Ocean by the great August Wilson. A moment where a former slave reveals the difference between natural law, the morality of humanism, versus man-made law. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King also believed that the struggle for a just society would be also based upon inalienable human rights, and these rights should always supersede the rule of law if that law or system were an unjust one. Perhaps Dr. King's greatest moment among countless others is when, despite many of his closest allies telling him that he would be damaging civil rights relations, he chose to take a stand and gave that historic speech against Johnson's war in Vietnam at Riverside Church 50 years ago. We are asking the city of Winston-Salem to join dozens of other cities in the spirit of Dr. King to stand up for the rights of the entire community and declare Winston-Salem an official sanctuary city. Over the last decade, we have seen unprecedented anti-immigrant sweeps that have torn apart families, friendships, relationships, and destroyed countless lives. An estimated 3 million or more deported. All the while poverty, unemployment, and or uncertain part-time employment has continued to rise. Many of the millions of undocumented residents who were deported are the direct genetic descendants of those who set foot upon today's America over 16,000 years ago. Now we, a nation founded upon the subjugation and erasure of Aboriginal Americans, must come to terms with the pain and stolen land and free labor the society has been built upon. While it is highly unlikely that it would be a major political risk of any of you to take a stand against hate speech and scapegoating that will very soon may be codified as mass immigration, raids, racist Islamophobic bans, and building walls that are already there. Each of you may already be saving lives and families with your support of a united Winston-Salem. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Tony Caldwell. Tony Caldwell, yes.
My name is Eugene D. Caldwell, 1418 Fifth Street. And I want to discuss it, but I'm a disabled veteran, and the bus is really inconvenience for me. It's very, I got to walk way to get to the, I'm very concerned about that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Villock.
Good afternoon to everybody. Buenas
Hi.
tardes. I as well live in Skyline Village. In
Would you
Colonial
please give
Heights.
your name and address for the record, please?
David Villada, 1411 Golson Avenue, with beating up bad habits as well.
Good, thank you.
I see these people every day having to walk. Sometimes I give them rides. Sometimes I can't give them rides. And they said that, we have one way in, one way out. There's no sidewalks. We're really having issues in our community with the bus routes. And I really, really ask for you guys to look over. I know you guys have spent time and money making new routes. Those routes need to be redirected. Another thing that I want to talk about is the violence and stuff that's going on in that community. I can only do so much with the kids. I can only do so much with anybody else. I mentioned back in the summer that I had issues with my facility, the owners and stuff. Now I'm closed and I'm looking for a new home. So a lot of these kids are more in the streets now. I'm asking for you guys to help and assist me. And with Brittany Ward, who right now at this time couldn't be here. They wouldn't let her in. We need some type of action, some type of development with the recreation centers that you guys already have. On Fridays, I don't know why they close early. Saturday and Sunday, I don't know why they're closed. Kids got things to do. They got somewhere to play. Why are you guys closed? We need some assistance. We need some help with these kids. Otherwise, all you're going to do is keep building more and more police departments. I don't know why. Are you guys expecting more violence, more problems in this community instead of helping us resolve them? We need help. And to one of the last matters, you guys were talking about developing jobs. What about the jobs that are already here? With these temp agencies, there's a modern slavery. Okay? I keep saying it all the time. I'm not sure if people even hear me. There's no benefits. There's no kind of paid vacation. There's nothing. There's no medical. Any job you go to, there's a so-called E-Verify, right? If I wanted a job with the city, you're going to run my background? Well, let me go to PPS or Debbie Staffing. They're not running my background. They don't care who's who. They just want a laborer. They want somebody to come and work. Okay? We need somebody to start shining some light on this stuff. I'm not asking for people to get fired. I'm asking for more people to be hired and there be more benefits for everybody. There's a lot of people here that are immigrants, but their kids are not, you know? And when they go pay bills and when they go spend money at the grocery stores and anywhere they are, that tax money, nobody asks about E-Verify. Nobody asks about green papers or this or that or who, what, where, when. That money is very well accepted. So we need some assistance.
Thank you. Valeria Cobos. Valeria Cobos, C-O-B-O-S.
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Again, my name is Valerio Rodriguez Cobos. My address is 338 Barnes Road. Just given the federal holiday we celebrated yesterday, I'd like to start by resonating the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." As we've mentioned in a previous meeting, the petition to make Winston-Salem a sanctuary city is ultimately serving the purpose of making our city a safer city, a non-hostile place for all immigrants currently living here or otherwise. These are immigrants that are here, many who have been here for several years, many who have just come to Winston-Salem recently, but they're immigrants from all religions, from all ethnicities, and from all types of status. This issue is of extreme importance. Lest we forget, we're changing administrations this Friday. Given that I've shared a little bit about my family at a previous meeting, I'd like you to know that they're here with me. My son is here, my mother's here, my grandmother's in this room, so is my aunt and my uncle, my younger cousins as well. As a city, I urge you to think of the kind of city that they will be growing up in. My family, like many other migrant families, doesn't deserve to live in fear every day. We work extremely hard and we're extremely humble people. And we're here doing what most of you guys are doing in this room, right? Working, educating our children, providing for our families. We're residents of Winston-Salem. We have been since 2001, at least for me personally. We're not criminals. We've been here long enough to see BB&T Baseball Park be built. We've been living here long enough to know that in the Southeast Ward, there's a hidden rock quarry that many residents find fascinating but don't really have access to. We've been here long enough to see Atkins be built, to see Reagan High School, where I went to my first year of my first year of high school. We've survived the ice storms that were hit to the city in the early 2000s. My point is we've been part of the city for so long. It wouldn't be fair that because we're about to have some fascist-like president take office on Friday, all of a sudden all of the roots that we've sown here are just going to be uplifted and we're going to be deported because of none other than racism and discrimination. I urge you to support this petition, and again, like Tony said, join many of the other cities who have already become a sanctuary city. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Sequoia. Andrew Sequoia. Wilcox.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. My name is Wilcox. I reside at 1208 Martin Street, Winston-Salem. Well, I come to you as a neighbor, and I think that's what Valeria came to you as, a neighbor. And I would imagine that each one of you probably felt something when she spoke from the heart about how our recent presidential election and the divisive language, frankly, hate speech and violent language that preceded it has affected people in our very community. So we bring before you this sanctuary petition, and it may appear that it's just a piece of paper, but I think this piece of paper is no more a piece of paper than the Bill of Rights or the U.S. Constitution, things that people fought for. And I think you all are very well aware that you're here because you represent that on a local level. So we come to you as neighbors, as members of the community, and we want to let you know, as this coalition of people, of groups that seems to be growing by the day, by the hour, and our Winston-Salem Sanctuary Coalition, that we think there needs to be a very clear statement of affirmation of our human rights, our civil liberties, that they still matter despite a new president that seems to think they don't. And we feel like on the local level, despite things that have come out of our legislature over the past year with HB 318, which supposedly said sanctuary is illegal. It's absurd, isn't it? I mean, what is a sanctuary? Can you make something illegal that's all of us? I don't think so. So we feel like there's certain things that need to be made very clear. If law enforcement, local law enforcement, when distrust is at a height that we haven't seen in ages, that we're not going to let that be the spear point of a weapon that's going to be used to divide and hurt our communities, and that we need to reaffirm these civil liberties and civil rights, and that our law enforcement will not be used as federal immigration agents. And then furthermore, I want to let you know that we didn't come in here against you all. We feel that you are our neighbors and you represent us. And we're here to say we will support you. This coalition is growing, and I think this is not a time of silence. It's a time for us to stand together. So we want to let you know, if you feel the pressure from Raleigh or from Washington, D.C., we want to give you strength.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
To do what's right. So I want you to consider the sanctuary petition, and I hope to, I know I will see you in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Jennifer Castillo.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Council members. My name is Jennifer Castillo, and I am here, I'm from 602 Landscape Lane, Winston-Salem. And I'm here to share a little bit of insight into this issue that's being brought before you and everything that you're hearing, into the whole importance of the label of being a sanctuary city. Many of you might be familiar with me already. For those of you that do not know, I have worked for years in our community doing various types of community service work, nonprofit work, and private work. I'd like to think that I've been a positive impact on many members of our community because of the advocacy and outreach work that I have done in my lifetime already. I've worked for many establishments that have given me the opportunity to aid members of my community through work such as substance abuse counseling, domestic violence counseling, anger management counseling, and most recently I was a success coach at an agency that assisted homeless individuals, and I helped them obtain housing and employment and be productive members of the community. So I've been able to work with many community members of all races, of all socioeconomic statuses. And I thought today I should work for myself, come out here and advocate for my own and for members of my community. knowing all that I just said about myself, would you look at me and say that I'm somebody that is undeserving to live in this community? No. I wouldn't say that I'm somebody that should be shipped off to a foreign country and just find my luck. By the grace of the good Lord, I like to say I was born on the other side of the fence. I was born in California, raised a Carolina girl. But I wanted to put a face to the cause because I went through the same situation with my family. I was in high school when my dad was first deported. Domestic violence charges led to gun possession charges, and after he served his time in the prison system, my dad was shipped off to Mexico. My mother struggled to keep our house and our business, and when our dad heard of our struggles, he came back into this country, risking his freedom, all to help us get back on our feet again. That is until the day that the U.S. Marshals came knocking on our door one early spring morning after a tip of some sort to come and get my dad. I remember waking up to a strange man in my room wearing a bulletproof vest and a gun pointed right at me, and as I reached around my bed searching for my shorts or pants or something to put on, the man kept yelling at me, this simple 15-year-old girl, a straight-A student, honor roll and AP all the way, over a 4.0 GPA, involved in every single club and community service activity.
Can you summarize, ma'am? Your time is up.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Basically, somebody like me was faced with a decision that I would have to go move to Mexico because my dad was deported. And so giving the sanctuary title to us would give us a peace of mind that people like me will not be sent to Mexico, will not have to face that decision of, do I go back to Mexico with my family, and will be able to stay in Winston-Salem and be contributing members of society like I've become. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Imman colleague Griggs. Imman colleague Griggs here. Yes, ma'am.
Briefly address you on the part of Imam Griggs.
Oh, yes.
My name is Gwyneth Robertson, 551 West Oak Trail. Imam Khalid Griggs was unable to come this evening. He had an emergency in his congregation and needed to spend time with a member who's passing. But he asked me to come and let you know the strong support that he lends to this endeavor, the sanctuary endeavor. And I know that you know that Muslims are in direct fire from the current administration and the coming administration, and the hate speech that's on the rise right now. You may not be aware that mosques in Winston-Salem are receiving death threats at this time because of this increased atmosphere. And so I would just ask you to consider carefully when you look at our petition how you can come up with a way to defend all the members of the community and make sure that Winston-Salem is able to ensure all of the parts of the community that they are safe here and they are welcome here, and that this is a city that values their contributions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Joanne Allen. Joanne Allen.
Good evening. Joanne Allen, Pillbox 284-27102. Selling out. This is a common idiomatic pejorative expression. It is the compromising of a person's integrity, morality, or principles in exchange for personal gain. For decades, this has been the norm for the city of Winston-Salem. You cannot justify or make this go away. Your actions, as well as others, have affected people's lives for over 40 years. Every time you take an oath to put the people of Winston-Salem first, and you fail to do that, you have breached your duty and obligations to the city staff. You do not work for the city council members. You work for the people of the city. It is your job to find the best way to help run this city effectively and efficiently, once again putting the people first. We are watching your actions very closely. When I hear some of the city council members saying we have to run this city like a business, I have to take personal offense. Profit is always the bottom line for a business with no regards on anything or anyone. Is this what you are telling the people of Winston-Salem? Once again, there are 8 Democrats and 1 Republican on this council. Our city and ward should not be in the state that it is in right now. With Democrats being in the majority on this council, there is no excuse. And for those council members who act like they are shocked because they don't know where the city money is going sometimes, the public isn't stupid. We aren't buying it. Where are some of the ministers and the community leaders that used to keep things in check? I guess you can't step up to the plate and speak out either if you got your hands out waiting for your share of our city dollars as well. People, you cannot play both sides of the fence. People are hurting. Just do what is right. And for those cowards who have threatened me to keep quiet at the city council meeting, I suggest you make sure you come correct. Enough said.
Thank you very much. This is all that had signed up to speak. We have about 3 more minutes. Does anyone else like to speak to the council?
Mayor, there's a couple in the overflow room.
Oh, okay. If they'd come on in. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, while he's coming up, make a comment. I don't have any trouble if there's more speakers, if we want to add a few more minutes.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Harold Eustache, 3605 High Meadows Drive. I've heard a lot of the discussion around sanctuary cities, and I wanted to say something about that. First thing I'll say is that this is not about, discriminating against anybody. All of us live in this city, and we all want to be fair to every single person in this city. But this is about following the law. And in our state, we have a General Assembly that was duly elected by the people. And that General Assembly has spoken very clearly about sanctuary cities. I'll direct your attention to North Carolina General Statute 160A-499.4, adoption of sanctuary adoption of sanctuary ordinance prohibited. It says under subsection A, no city may have in effect any policy, ordinance, or procedure that limits or restricts the enforcement of federal immigration laws to less than the full extent permitted by federal law. Really what sanctuary cities are haven't been totally codified in the law. I think what they are is cities saying we will ignore federal law. What I'm asking you as a concerned citizen is not to ignore federal law, but also not to ignore state law. I think that is beyond reproach to do both of those things. I would remind the council that municipalities and cities in North Carolina are different than other states. They're controlled by the General Assembly in some ways. And so I would implore the council to listen to the General Assembly. If folks want to change that law, then they have every right to elect leaders in the General Assembly that will change that law. But until that happens, I would ask the council not to listen to any referendum on sanctuary cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else wanted to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Christina Gupta, 2218 Maplewood Avenue. I'm an assistant professor of women's gender and sexuality studies at Wake Forest University, and I just wanted to give you some information about Wake Forest University, the community, and their support of the sanctuary movement. We have approached it from the sanctuary campus perspective. So I'm part of a group that organized a petition asking President Hatch to declare Wake Forest University a sanctuary campus. So I just wanted to let you know that that was signed by 1,349 members of the Wake Forest community, including 360 alumni, 630 current students, 180 faculty members, and 68 staff members. And then also I wanted to let you know that we brought a resolution before the college faculty of Wake Forest University asking the university to commit to protecting undocumented members of our community to the fullest extent allowed by the law, and that was passed unanimously by the college faculty at Wake Forest University. So I just wanted to indicate, I mean, it's a somewhat different issue, a sanctuary campus versus a sanctuary city, but there's a lot of support at the university for these kind of initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I saw another hand back here. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Brittany Ward, address 3931 Harwood Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I also represent a nonprofit organization called Hoops for Life. The LIFE is acronym for helping low-income youth and families everywhere. Today I brought two of my players to talk about the importance of what we need from our community to STEM to help our community bridge balance in the community and bridge academic success and basketball trainings. He's prepared something. Josiah Penn has prepared a speech that he wants to give you all.
My name is Josan, and I play for Hoops for Life organization. I think you should open the recreation center on the weekends because children will have a safe haven to play versus the dangers of gun violence in their neighborhoods.
Very good. Thank you.
I also have Deontay Diablo who wants to say his piece.
Good evening. My name is Diablo. Well, I'm here today representing Hoops for Life. I want the recreation centers open on the weekends to make sure that kids are like in a safe place that they can get like out of trouble and like the hood and all that, and they have a like good place playing basketball and all the recreation centers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for hearing their piece.
No, thank you for coming down. Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Members of the council, my name is Kim Porter. I've lived at 1212 West 4th Street, Winston-Salem. I'm here to speak on behalf of the children of Winston-Salem and of North Carolina. People are here today. You saw Brittany speaking about the Hoops for Life program and keeping the rec centers open on the weekend, and that's really important for our children. And why is it that rec centers in areas that are mostly white are open? Why is it that people who can afford to go to the YMCA or go to other programs that are paid for are open, and yet we have other centers that are closed? It's really important for our children to have somewhere to go on the weekends so they can stay out of trouble, so that they can be productive residents in our community, and that's really important. The other reason I'm here today is to speak on behalf of the resolution against this whole deportation thing has really gotten to me. I'm sorry, I'm being a little emotional. I worked as a social worker, as an adoption worker, and as a foster care worker for many years in 20 counties of North Carolina. That's 20% of our state. One of the counties that I worked in the most was in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. And let me tell you what I saw, and I can't have any of these children come speak because of confidentiality, like Brittany did, but what I can tell you is that when we deport our friends and neighbors who have raised children here, who have given to our community, who pay not only state and local taxes, but also pay on federal taxes very often and don't see a penny of that back like the rest of us. What we see is that the children who are citizens who are born in this country are left behind when law enforcement comes in and raids their homes like we heard about earlier. I've seen those children. I've seen them end up in foster care. I have seen them be devastated. And there is a human cost for that, as well as a financial cost to this city. And I hope and I pray that you all will find it in your hearts to do the right thing for the children and for the residents of our county and our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. Thank you. Let's get the comments. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Evans, 539 Power Plant Circle here in Winston. I'm an assistant professor at Winston-Salem State. I'm a public educator. I come from a long line of public educators in my family, and I want to lend my support to the petition to make Winston-Salem a sanctuary city. I'll keep it brief. The point has been raised about following the rule of law. I want to point out that part of being a sanctuary city is ensuring that the most marginalized and vulnerable populations are able to afford themselves the protections that law enforcement is supposed to provide to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Have room for about one more comment, if you would, sir.
My name is Andrew Segovia. I'm from 7314 Horseman's Cove. I'd just like to support this petition. I'm a son of an immigrant, so I like to speak for those who are not here, for the children that are not here, and for the fathers and mothers that are not here, and say if you can support the petition. And there'll be, I don't know what holds in the future with the president-elect, but I think making it a sanctuary city will help us out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Certainly appreciate the comments that you've made there. All right.
One more. Quad Swipes, 322 West 25th Street. I'm a transit rider, and I'm a member of the recreation centers. I grew up in them also. My concern is that y'all don't open them on the weekend, and they do close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Most schools let out around about 3 o'clock, and that only leaves an hour and a half for them kids to spend. And then it's a lot of time, free time spent elsewhere. A lot of time they make those choices to go places because there's not open places for them to be safe. When they make those decisions, then they're faced with those, with what happens when you make bad choices. And I hate to see that these young guys and women go through these things. So that's my first part of speaking on. And I also speak upon riding the bus. They made a dramatic change really fast without giving us a chance to speak on behalf of the people that ride. A small stroke of a pen changed the lives of a lot of people. A lot of people are now unemployed because of the changes that was made. They moved a lot of routes and didn't replace them, and they make us get off the bus in places that's really bad. Like dangerous. So the number 10 bus is one of the most rode buses, and it comes straight down University. It lets you off on a corner of 14th and University. It was a woman that was hit by a car on University and Northwest Boulevard. I'm not saying that she was a bus rider, but that lets you know how dangerous it is trying to cross that path. All I'm asking is for y'all to look into the situations that's going on. Don't cast us out. I know we don't have the funds that y'all want for us to fix these problems. We can't fix them ourselves. There's a lot of us in here who would love for y'all to do this for us. We voted for y'all. Y'all work for us. Even though we don't pay y'all do work for us, and y'all represent us. We just really want y'all to start looking at us as equals and not just the people who y'all don't need.
Thank you very much. Good point. I'm going to close the public comment period. Certainly, we greatly appreciate the comments that everyone has made. We take those very seriously. I want to do two things. Councilmember Burke had a question, I think, of the city manager.
Yes.
So you go ahead.
The question and observation, some things have been stated about the recreation center, and do we have some open on Sundays and some closed on Sundays?
Mayor Pro Tem, I believe most of them are closed. I can't tell you for sure. Most of them are closed. I need to check. But one of the things that our new recreation director has been charged to do is to redeploy our resources. That is a significant issue of why our centers are closed on Friday nights and Saturdays and Sundays. So I think you'll see some changes there, and I'll give you a report specifically on which ones, because off the top of my head I don't know.
One other
Go ahead.
question. We did get a survey back, Mayor and Council people, about this city new bus routes, and we have been so concerned, and we are sensitive about, and I feel that the city manager needs to answer. I felt, and I still feel, that even though we sit up here and vote, we don't have any authority. They keep telling me, yes, we do. If we did, then we would be doing some of the things we see. So if I ask you the question, Mr. City Manager, do we as a council really have authority about the bus? We make some of these decisions, but tell the people how far we can go.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As a reminder, we do contract with a private company to run the bus system, but this council makes the decisions on the routes. Over the last 2 years, working through the Public Works Committee and through the Transit Authority, the route changes were reviewed and implemented, and this council can change them. There will be changes. There are small changes that can be made, moving a bus stop, things like that don't require changes in the timing of the routes or the addition of more resources, particularly drivers or buses. But probably a third of the complaints we've seen that are on that list would require more resources, would require changes to the routes, would require more service nights and weekends. This council can do it. We'll just have to we need direction, and we need the resources to do that.
Thank you. As Councilmember Burke alluded to, the information we provide has been 187, comments regarding the changes in the bus routes, a variety of issues brought up there. And I know I've received some communication from large institutions such as Wake Forest and others, and I know we're taking each one of these very seriously as well. I want to recognize the Chairman of the Public Works Committee, Mr. Bessie, who might make a comment about moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to give a little bit of background about what has happened and what's in the process of happening with regarding the changes in the bus routes. As the chair of the Public Works Committee, first I want folks to know that we have been working on improving our bus system for a number of years now, and have made a number of major improvements, such as extended night hours, the addition of Sunday service, and the addition of some new routes over the past few years. The major changes to the route system in the city that were just put into effect on January 2nd of this year were 2 years in the making. We spent most of calendar year 2015 in the process of a careful examination of the route system as it previously existed, and in taking public comment on suggested renovations to that route. We, as a council, voted in December 2015 to initiate or to okay the overhaul of the system as it's been implemented in January 2nd, leaving a year's worth of education period, and spent much of that time trying to help get the word out to folks who would be affected by the changes and other potential users of the system in the city about what was coming as of January 2nd. This was the first comprehensive overhaul of our bus system since it was created decades and decades ago. As such, we knew that there would be some problems and some disruptions, and we geared up to take comment and to initiate a process of reviewing those and making adjustments to address the bugs in the new system. What the new system was designed to do was not to save money. I know that the word has circulated in some cases that it was a cost-cutting measure. It was not. In fact, the new system adds approximately $500,000 a year in annual operating costs to the system, because the purpose of the changes was to make the system more efficient and more useful to riders. It didn't work in every case, but we think that it worked in the majority of cases. We added cross-town routes, so that it's no longer a complete hub and spoke system where everybody had to go through the transit center downtown before you could get anyplace else in the city. We added circulators to help in different parts of the city for the folks who didn't need to go all the way across town, but needed to be able to get around within an area and to get to major destinations like the Haynes Mall area. We were trying and are trying to make the system more useful for riders. We increased frequency of service so that routes now take only about a half an hour instead of 45 minutes each to get where you're going. What we're doing now to adjust to the bugs that have been identified and respond to the reports and concerns that have been made to us, we've got a three-stage process. Some of the problems that have been coming in have been based on inadequate information. Folks didn't know what the new route was that would serve them, and in many cases get them where they needed to go faster than the options they had before. That's ongoing, providing that information. The second we're making minor adjustments through the staff process on an ongoing basis, something that can be improved simply by adding or moving a stop on a route as reconfigured doesn't need to wait. We're putting those into effect on a rolling basis now. The third, problems that can't be addressed other than by major additions to service, such as adding night routes or adding Sunday routes, or by changing the configuration of the new routes in a way that if you don't change them systematically, you're going to make people miss their connections with other routes. Major changes like that we can't do on a dime and overnight. But staff for the Winston-Salem Transit Authority and our Department of Transportation are reviewing the problems that are coming in now. In 3 months' time, they will bring to the Public Works Committee in April a set of comprehensive analyses and recommendations for what we could do to make adjustments. Some of those we can make simply by making changes to the routes. Others would require adding yet additional funds to the system operating costs. We can do those, but if we do that, we're going to have to make adjustments to our overall budget, and that's something that would take some additional time. But thank you to everybody who came this evening. Thank you to everybody who has made comments or expressed concerns about the transit system changes thus far. If you haven't let us know your concerns or your suggestions yet, please do let us know. We're continuing to take comments and we'll be reviewing those. But we wanted to let you know that we have a process in place now, ongoing, that will attempt to address those concerns because we want the system to be as useful as possible to as many people in our city as possible, and we're committed to that.
Thank you, Councilor Bessie. Councilor Adams and Councilor Clark.
Thank you. Again, what we did was we thought we did something that was going to help the process. I can say, yeah, I voted on it. I can say that I was probably one of the main ones that came up with it because I was on Public Works Committee years ago, and the public transit fund, the transit fund was constantly just, we were dipping over into reserves to try to sustain it. And I asked for information to be brought to the committee as to what's the drivers of it. A lot of it had to do with nobody. And I asked, had we ever done a study on our transit system to see whether it was effective, efficient, productive, doing what it needed to do? And I was told that the city had never done that. So we went about trying to do that. Okay, as Councilmember Bessie said, yes, we tried to communicate through TV 13, signs on the buses, the transit system in center downtown. But as I told them, we're all human. We never really look at everything that's going on in our life every day until it affects or impacts us right then and there. And that's what the bus system of the changing of the routes. I have asked them to look at some of the routes in the North Ward, particularly University Parkway, Boston Thurman, and Chatillon. I have more apartments and other needs in my community than most of the other parts of the ward that people, again, depend on it. This is their lifeline. I've also gotten calls from Wake Forest administrators. I've gotten calls from West 10, which used to be Rock 10 on Chatillon, Haynes Mill, that they're literally having to shut shifts down because their people aren't getting there on time. And we've communicated all of that. And I did express that to my council, and I know every one of them. They know how I am. They tired of listening to me. I got that. But I told them, being a part of manufacturing when it comes to the process, and you change a process system, sometimes you change it to make it better, but if it's not working to the people who are the recipients of the process, the customers, you, then now we got to go back and retweak. I know, and I understand, and I hear us about the 3-month time frame. They're trying to make some changes now, but I suggested that 3 months might be a little bit long on this one because because when you're hurting in your job, in your family, in your safety, in your health, and your groceries, and everything else that you need to get to church and everywhere else, I think we need to just back up and say, you know what? We tried to do the good work, but maybe now we need to go back and retweak the process. That's all I'm asking. And Mayor, I need to say, like Mayor Pro Tem, about the recreation and parks. I've been 8 years on this board, this council, going on 9, and there's nobody on staff or anywhere else that my council can say I have not been a proponent of these recreation centers, who are the most neediest resources in some of our communities. Those of us that grew up in Winston, we grew up going to the recreation center every day of the week, every night in the evenings. And I have continued to ask them, and yes, Mr. Garrett, I know we tasked the new recreation director, but I've been asking for this for 8 years as to why the recreation centers aren't open when our children are not in school and they're home on the weekends and holidays when they need them the most. I'm sure we can find agencies and churches and organizations. Again, you all got to step up. We can open them, but if they're open, we need people there, grown folk, to help monitor the activities of our children. We just can't open it up and everybody come by and drop the kid off and keep going. So, like they said, if we give you what you asked for, we're going to be asking you to come forward and give as well. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council.
Park.
Thank you. Couple of quick questions. First off, I want to say on the record again, the motion to approve the new bus routes passed 7-1. I did not vote for it for the very reason you're here tonight. No business would change everything they do in one day. Our bus system should be evergreen. It should be something that we look at on a continuous basis and tweak it as needed. I can tell you, I've sat here for 15 years. I know we've added at least one route, eliminated a route. We've added night service in certain places. We added more buses in certain places. We've added Sunday service. Can you imagine an airlines that woke up one day and all of a sudden everything's different? I'm not surprised we're having these problems, and I hope this council will learn from this that you just don't make massive changes to something that affects people's livelihood. Now, I will say, in their defense, I think the intent was honorable. Our intent was to try to get you to where you wanted to go quicker. We've added circular routes. For example, you don't have to go, as I think Mr. Bessie used, the hub and spoke type thing. You don't have to go downtown on certain routes. Some of them circulate. But again, at the same time, I did not support this because I just don't think you change everything at once on something that's so critical. It was also mentioned earlier, some people think this was a money saving. It's not. Mr. Bessie is correct. It's about $500,000 more we're spending now than we spent on the old ones. We'd like to mention, just for your information, people ask sometimes about the cost. The money you put in the box to pay for the bus service pays for about 15% of the cost of the buses. The other 85% is a combination of federal, state, and local money. So just for your information. Lastly, there was a comment made about the rec centers, and I feel compelled to make a comment here. First off, I appreciate Ms. Adams' comment to take a look at this. There was a comment made that the rec centers on the white side of town have better hours than those on the other side. It disturbs me when I hear comments like that, and I do want to say on the record for everybody to know, there are no rec centers in the West Ward. There are no Ys in the rec ward. There are no Salvation Army centers. We do our best to treat everybody in this town equally, and if we were, we would have more on the west side than the other areas, but we try to put them where we think they are needed. So I just want people to know that we are not showing favoritism there, and I do appreciate looking at them to see what we can do to provide better service than the ones we have. Thank you.
Councilman Montgomery.
Yep. A couple comments. One, out of all the comments we've heard tonight, I think there's just a basic theme out of all of those, and that is a question of what is acceptable in our community. What is the standard that we desire, and what do we accept as that standard, whether we're talking about bus services or whether we're talking about sanctuary cities or whether we're talking about recreation centers. What is acceptable and what is the standard that we desire for our community? I won't rehash everything that's been stated around transportation, but will say specifically that out of our conversations, out of the meetings that took place over an extended period of time, it was always a conversation about people and how a system should work around people and individuals. Out of all the work that's taken place over the last year or so in reference to talking about poverty in this city, one of the largest things that keeps coming up over and over and over again is transportation. and how people have access to adequate transportation to ensure that they can get to their jobs, that they can get to the grocery store. If you live in a community that doesn't have a grocery store and you're dependent on public transportation, that means that you need the bus to get there, but then also you're challenged with the fact that you can only carry so many bags on the bus in order to get your groceries. And so if you can only have a bag limit, then how do you truly shop for an extended period of time if you can't carry all your groceries on the bus? And so we have all of these issues that surround where people are, where they live, where they work, and how they continue to do the business that's necessary. And it's a question of what do we do and how we continue to improve that. I think it's in this council, those who sit behind this desk, it's in our hands. I want the community to understand that very clearly, that it is in no one else's hands, but it's in the hands of those who sit behind this desk to be able to make a decision on how we can improve the system. WISTA operated based on what this council stated that we wanted to move in based upon recommendations. So it is in the hands of this council to be able to move forward, to hear those concerns and make a difference in trying to make sure that we hear and do what the community is asking of us to do. On top of that, it is a value proposition that people have asked about in terms of what we invest in our system. We underfund transportation in the city of Winston-Salem at the lowest level compared to any other city in the state of North Carolina our size. And so we have to ask that question. If we want to invest in people, is it invested in transportation to make sure they get where they need to go as well? Our rec center questions, I think that's something we have to continue to look at, and glad that that continues to come forward tonight. And then lastly, in reference to the sanctuary city item, regardless of what has been stated at the state level and other areas, I think it's still a necessary part on this community to have this dialogue and have this conversation. I don't believe that we can just turn a deaf ear to the concerns. We have to have a conversation, regardless if we agree or disagree. That's the problem that with our communities now, is that when we disagree, we don't have conversation about it. So at the very least, we have to begin that conversation and be able to move from there. And on that, I'll be asking the city manager to make sure that this item is placed on the general government committee to be able to have additional conversation on this item, and so that we can see what is within our purview to do, if anything, and then to hear from both sides on the issue, to be able to say what we should do as a city of Winston-Salem when it comes to sanctuary cities and how we treat individuals and how we serve the community as a whole. And again, on this item, there are people on both sides, but it's again a thing that we have to have a conversation about. If you don't have conversation about something, I don't think you can just immediately throw it out the door. But I think there's a need to be able to have real honest conversation on what we do and how we engage as a holistic community. And the last thing I'll say is this, is that for everyone who's here tonight who have been awoken based upon things that have touched you, whether it's the sanctuary cities, whether it is the community centers, whether it's the bus systems, I ask that you stay woke, meaning that you stay engaged in the process and that you hold us accountable, other elected officials, other people who hold offices accountable for what we do and what we don't do, what we say we're going to do and what we say we're not going to do, and to continue to push the mantle to make sure that we're responding to what you hear. And I know I said that was the last thing, but it's the preacher in me. I got one more thing, and that is to a young man who mentioned about the council and that we work for people. That's true. We work for those who elect us, and y'all do pay us. It's not a whole lot, about $12,000, but y'all do pay us. So just make sure you know that you do pay us.
Thank you very much. Is there Councilman Taylor have a?
Yeah, I just want to take. I don't want to belabor the hour. I want to take a quick moment and just thank everyone who came and spoke this evening. This is the people's house. It'll continue to be that way, both for and against all of the issues. Thank you for the rec center comments. We'll do what we can to address those. But I did just want to make a plea specifically to, we've heard from people across the city who had concerns with some of the bus routes. My plea is specifically to Southeast Ward riders. I've actually heard from people who were delighted about some of the route changes. I haven't heard a groundswell of concern from some of the routes in the southeastern portion of the city. So I've heard 3 concerns. Some of the times need to be extended. I've heard that Sunday service needs to be reinstated on the few of the routes, and we also need to add some additional stops in some neighborhoods who have to walk a little bit further. But the circulator's going fine. People are okay with the routes. If that is not the case, my cell phone number is public. I'm one of the few people who do that. You can feel free to reach out to me by email, cell phone. But from what I'm hearing from those who I represent, they're okay with the routes outside of those minor adjustments. So I'll be happy to hear from you, and we will make the adjustments at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and second. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. We're adjourned.